Hey guys, welcome back to another video. Today I am driving my wife's 2022 Volkswagen Taos, and I'm going to be doing a little bit of a POV review. We've had this for about 3 months now, and we've got 3,800 miles, and I want to give you guys a first impressions owner's review. The car is dirty, so don't mind it, but I mean, this is as raw as it gets of an actual owner's perspective of how me and my wife like one of these. So let's go ahead and get a walk around of the vehicle, kind of give you guys a tour. So this is finished in cornflower blue, and it's the SE all-wheel drive 4Motion. Being here in Ohio, I decided to get the all-wheel drive version, and I have to say, based on the 3 months that we've owned it, we've had a little bit of snow, and it's done really well. It's a great car in the snow. The tires, typically when you get something new, the tires aren't very good because they just put the cheapest stuff they can on it. But overall, the tires on this are absolutely incredible. I love the way it looks too. But that cornflower blue really stands out. A lot of people compliment on it. No real complaints about the exterior at all. Everything's pretty easy to clean, and looks fairly decent. You do have smart key access here. Just press it once to lock, and then press it. After you walk away and come back, you press it again, and it unlocks. So let's go ahead and check out the trunk here. Got a fairly decent amount of room back here. They even give you a 12-volt outlet, and there's a spare under here. We do have the Volkswagen Cargo protection system. It just kind of has these Velcro things that stick here and keep stuff from moving around. They just kind of flap around back here if you don't have it stuck. I mean, I wouldn't opt for that package if I was anyone else. But it just came with the car. You got a first aid kit and roadside emergency kit here. Fairly decent sized trunk. I've had this rear seats folded down, and I was able to fit a full-size grandfather clock back here, which was nice. Now, one thing I will say that's been kind of annoying on this is this trunk is extremely hard to close. Maybe it was just when we got it the first time, but like the first month and a half, we would shut it how I just did, and it would say the trunk wasn't shut. But now it's pretty consistent, and it shuts nicely. Fairly decent amount of legroom back here. I'll go ahead and hop in. And easy access. It's a really nice place to be. We did opt for the panoramic sunroof. But yeah, I mean, there's plenty of space to be. I mean, I'm 6 foot, and I have plenty of room back here. You do get some vents and a USB-C port, but we ended up using that USB-C port for our dash cam right up in there. But overall, pretty nice. Here's a couple cup holders that come down here. There's your ski pass-through and some map pockets. Yeah, I mean, like I said, your rear seat passengers are not going to complain at all back here. It's a very comfortable ride. We'll kind of get to that when I drive the car. I'll just give you guys a shot of what the dash looks like. You can see on the infotainment how it's kind of smudged up. I didn't bother cleaning that because I wanted to have you guys see how smudged it gets. It's kind of a little bit of a nitpick about this car. Is my Honda, I still have the Honda Accord. I'll do a year review on that, but my Honda doesn't get that smudged up. All right, let's go check out what's under the hood. So under the hood here is a 1.5 liter turbocharged 4-cylinder, and this being the the SE 4Motion. It's mated to this 7-speed DSG. Pretty nice powertrain. Adequate power, adequate acceleration. We'll kind of get into that while we drive. But, easy stuff to fill, or easy access to fill your windshield washer fluid, easy access to the battery, easy access to your air cleaner. Everything on here is pretty easily serviceable, so no complaints with that. Kind of forgot to mention, you do get LED daytime running lights and LED headlights with LED brights, which is very nice. Provides really nice really nice illumination down the road. Now, one major gripe I have about this car, and it's probably the biggest gripe about it, is the fact that the key fob is absolutely terrible. It hardly registers button presses, and when you try to remote start it, you press this twice and you press this twice. For some odd reason, it doesn't matter how far you are, 20 feet away, 50 feet away, half the time it works, half the time it doesn't. I don't know why. I haven't really gone to the dealer yet to figure that out, but both key fobs, both sets of key fobs do the exact same thing. It's like it's not receiving the signal from the key fob. That's really annoying. But we have the smartphone app, and that kind of mitigates that issue. But that is just one thing I wanted to point out. The key fob is absolutely terrible. Now, while this thing is blabbermouthing, I'll kind of give you a tour of this. It does have defrosted mirrors, but this is a really unique implementation of how they go about it. It isn't tied to your climate control system. You literally have to rotate the switch, and that's how you turn the defrosted mirrors on. Power seats, and I'll go ahead and open up the moonroof. That's really cool. We really like that a lot. It lets in a lot of light. It is fairly tinted as well, so it's not like 9,000 degrees in here in the summer. So that's pretty nice that they tinted it enough to where you're not baking. These seats are like cloth and kind of like a suede type insert. I don't even know how to describe it. But they are heated as well, and they are extremely comfortable. That's actually one of my favorite things about this car is extremely comfortable to drive in. So let's go ahead, hop in the driver's seat. Got a nice digital display in here, and your typical automatic lights, wiper controls, turn signals, all your cruise control settings, and infotainment settings, and this controls the different screens too. You get a couple different views. I won't go through all this, but I typically like to keep it on the tachometer view. Basic climate controls, no dual zone here. Wireless charging, a couple USB-C ports, and your drive mode selector, auto start stop button, which you can deactivate, which is nice. Your electronic parking brake, a couple cup holders, and a center console, which I'm going to put my wife's sunglasses so I don't destroy them. Infotainment, overall a pretty positive experience. It doesn't really lag too bad. Don't want to. Oops. No. We don't want to turn that on. It doesn't really lag too bad. I mean, it's very responsive. The screen is just beautiful, and it works well. It has wireless CarPlay, but I found that my phone just absolutely drains the battery when it's hooked up to wireless CarPlay. So you can disable it in this car, which is nice, and just use wired CarPlay only, and that's what I have. But I don't have it hooked up right now because I'm using my phone to record binaural audio. Binaural audio. So yeah, it does come up with a backup camera. No guidance lines, unfortunately, when I move the wheel. But I mean, that's okay. Now here is a huge nitpick on this car that drives me up a wall, is the volume knob. Yes, it has a physical volume knob, but look at this. The logo just turns with the knob. And, I look over and it's like that. I can't unsee that. It's such a small detail, but it drives me crazy. I don't know why they would do such a thing. Which kind of leads me on to the quality of the interior in here. It is, it's not bad, but it's definitely not up to par about like with other cars in its class. But I mean, that goes to say, it's kind of hard plastic on here, and scratch. This is kind of soft here, and this is softer here as well. But the interior quality just like isn't like the other cars in its class. But on the flip side of that, and the reason why we kind of went with this is we liked how basic this was. Basic climate control, basic interior. I've cleaned fancy interior cars, and they are so hard to get in every nook and cranny, and sometimes the products that you use on the fancy stuff smears and doesn't look great. This you can just wipe down, be done, and it looks great. Looks just like brand new. Sure, you might have to deal with this, but I mean, really, how many times are you going to be knocking on that? It's not that big of a deal. It's a very nice place to be, and it just gets the job done. Another thing I wanted to touch on is this piano black plastic that's right here and here. You can't see it now, but in direct sunlight, you can definitely see that it's starting to scratch a little bit, because I've wiped it down once just to kind of get the dust off. You can see it's kind of scratching a bit, and not too pleased about that. I might, have somebody buff that and put some paint protection film on just to kind of get that taken care of. All right, let's go ahead and take this out for a quick drive and kind of give you my thoughts on what it's like to drive and some different impressions while we go along. So I'll go ahead and start there. The start-stop system actually works really nice. We really don't have too many gripes with it. The fact that it can be turned off is a blessing in itself, because most of the time when you're in a city or something, like, oh, there goes a cat. Run, cat, run. The fact that it can be turned off is a blessing in itself, because sometimes when you're in traffic and stuff, that can get a little irritating. But at stoplights or drive-throughs or something like that, it comes in handy. Works really well, doesn't jerk around too bad. It's probably right up there with one of the smoothest start-stop systems I've ever seen. So one thing I kind of wanted to demonstrate here is the turning radius. It is absolutely crazy. This thing can literally just about turn on a dime. I mean, look at that. I'd even go lock to lock here, but it's pretty nice. So this thing does drive a lot smoother than the front-wheel drive version of this car, and it's definitely one of the things that made us buy this car. I mean, we liked it better than the Toyota Corolla Cross and the Honda HR-V. One thing I actually will say, while the sun's directly in my eyes right now, is these sun visors, you can't really tell now, but they are extremely short. Like, I'm 6 foot, and this is my driving position, and both me and my wife noticed that it could come down a little farther, because half the time the sun is right in my eyes. I'm not sure if you guys can tell in the camera, but yeah, it's just one of those things that kind of pesters both of us. Now, this powertrain, we really love this powertrain. The 1.5 does put decent power down to the road. I mean, it's not going to win any drag races, but it's not going to, leave you longing for more in like traffic and, get you hurt. My wife loves it. It was a lot faster than her 2014 Elantra. She has no complaints about the power at all. Now, I want to talk about the transmission a little bit. This is our first dual clutch, my wife's first dual clutch. I've driven them before, but it's a little bit jerky, especially when we first got it. It was extremely jerky, actually, and it was one of those things where, like, wow, this is kind of rough. But we were told, and I kind of look on the forums too, that as the transmission computers and the car kind of learns how to adapt with your driving style, it does smooth down a lot. So if you're looking at one of these and your first impression of the transmission is, holy cow, this is terrible, don't worry, that was kind of our first impressions too, but it'll get better. It does have a fair amount of tip in too on the throttle. There's a little bit of a delay when you hit the gas to when you actually go too. And you kind of do feel the clutch slip on the DCT2 when you first start. It's just kind of one of the characteristics of a DCT. My wife drives this on a daily basis, and she doesn't mind how the transmission shifts, but like I said, it's definitely tuned for efficiency, so it'll make shift decisions that are pretty questionable in my opinion. Like, I'm like, why would you shift out of the power band that bad? It kind of just falls flat on its face. With the amount of power that it has. Once you get the revs up and kind of keep them up, and you can kind of modulate it with the throttle, it really pulls. Look at that, we're already up to 60, and that was like 50, 55, 60% throttle. But you got to keep the revs up. It doesn't like to hold the revs very high. It'll shift instantly, downshift, or it'll upshift pretty instantly to try to get that best fuel economy. It's been cloudy all day, and it cracks me up that I go to film this video and the sun comes right out, and I hope it's really not taking away too much of this video. Overall, we really like the cabin a lot. After 3,800 miles, I would hope there's no rattles or anything. but there's no huge amount of rattles and just cheap feeling stuff, even though the materials in here aren't the best. It's held up together really well. I'll take it down a gravel road here and I'll shut up for a second so you guys can kind of hear the road noise on a gravel road like this. Overall, not bad. This is probably one of the worst roads for road noise. I mean, it's the loudest in any car I've ever been in, and this thing's pretty quiet for the price point. I mean, it's not, no Rolls Royce or anything, but it's pretty quiet. Now, I haven't been averaging the best fuel economy here just because I'm just kind of going around town just, thrashing it, and I was just sitting there for 15 minutes talking about it. But my wife, when she goes to work, she's got a 38-mile commute one way, and she gets anywhere between 34 to 36 miles a gallon, which is incredible. This thing gets really good fuel mileage, and we definitely haven't noticed a huge fuel cost spending compared to her 2014 launch, which got like 41, 42 miles a gallon. Definitely won't break the bank with gas prices being at $4 a gallon right now. To completely fill this thing up, $50 bill will do it, and it lasts her, a little over a week with a 38-mile commute one way to work. So no complaints there at all. Another thing I forgot to mention is the visibility out of this thing is great, absolutely great. It's got blind spot monitoring, and I mean, you look around, you can see, especially in the little corner windows out back there, you can see quite a bit. There's no real blind spots that stick out. It's not like a Chevy Camaro where you can't see out of. Now, I won't go too deep into the drive modes. Like, we haven't really used them, and to be honest, I think they're kind of a little bit of a gimmick. I mean, you just mess around with some of the traction control features and hill descent control and things like that. It doesn't really affect the car too much, especially maybe in the all-wheel drive system. I haven't had enough time with it to really notice a difference between switching them, but I just leave it in normal most of the time and keep everything else, like the steering and stuff, in normal rather than comfort or sport or whatever. The transmission has a sport shift, like sport mode, so you just pull down on that. And you remember how I was saying earlier how the transmission makes terrible shift decisions for, like trying to get up to speed. I mean, it's just very tuned for economy. That putting it in sport real fast will kind of mitigate that, but you can't leave it in sport mode all the time, because what it'll do is it'll keep a couple gears down to kind of keep the revs up, because it thinks you want to race or something like that. So that's kind of a little bit of a bummer there. The sport mode definitely makes this car shine, but putting it back in normal mode, it's just like, come on, guys. But it's easy. If you're in a pinch or something, you just slap the stick down and it just goes. Not a big deal at all. So overall, like I said, we really like the vehicle. Performs well. So far, it's been extremely reliable, and I would hope so after 3,800 miles. Definitely would recommend it to anybody looking at one. Do your research as always. I'm not going to sway you to say this car is the best one in the world, but it fits our needs, and if you're just looking for something basic, it definitely fits your needs as well. All right, well, thank you guys for watching. If you guys would like to see more content on this car and other POV test drives that I will definitely be doing, let me know in the comments below, and we will see you in the next video. All right, see you guys later.